Hi, my name is Stephanie and this is Idle Handmade. Today I'm going to be talking about everything I knit in Q1 of 2025, which is just a fancy way of saying the first 3 months of the year. I make short form content on TikTok and Instagram and sometimes YouTube Shorts while I'm in the process of making this stuff. If you're interested in seeing what I'm making while I'm making it, you can check out whatever short form content floats your boat. But for now, I'm just going to go over the high level stuff. So the first thing I made, which you absolutely can't see any details on the camera, is a Harris hood. And this happened because I made a balaclava at the end of 2024 and I was like, actually this is not like the look that I'm going for. I'm looking for more of a hood, so guess what? I made a hood. Now I wanted to make it in like a heather gray, but I couldn't find the right color, so I made it black, which matches my jacket. While it was fun to knit this and like figure out the construction and stuff, I was making this with Lion Brand anti-pilling. Can't remember the full name of the yarn, but it's very well, it's acrylic and it feels like acrylic, we'll just say that. I also have not woven in any of the ends on this, I just kind of tuck them in when I wear it. But then I did find a decent heather gray and I made it again in Big Twist, probably called heather gray. This is the one that I wear more. On this one, I decided to make the top panel a little bit wider just so it didn't sit so much like a mohawk on my head. So I wore the black one for a little while, but now I definitely reach for this one more. Well, not now, it's March and it's hot. And I did weave in all the ends on this one except for this one, and I keep forgetting to do it. I do think I prefer the look of the gray hood, partially because this is what I was going for originally anyway. Partially because it's just a little bit floppier, but I did get a lot of good use out of this while it was cold. The next thing that I finished was this Sonia sweater by PetiteKnit. I did it in Lion Brand, Heartland, and I think it's King's Canyon. It's this really nice marled dark green color, and I actually started this the day after Christmas, but obviously it takes much longer to do than a hood. This is probably my most worn garment, including everything that I made last year. I just really like how it turned out. The yarn was again really acrylic-y when I was using it, and it sort of rubbed my hand raw where the yarn was going across it, but I put it through the wash and it actually got a lot softer to the touch, so it's actually really nice to wear. So my Lion Brand Heartland review was that hated the process of knitting with it, but it turned out good. So I made this sweater with a specific project in mind. I wanted to get a practice with this construction first before I did the thing that I was trying to do, which I'll show you in a second. And in general, I like this sweater. I like the construction. The only problem that I have is that the armholes are not deep. I think it's the same armhole depth for every size, which I don't know if designers know this, but when you scale up the bust size, you should also maybe scale up the arms. So the arms are a little tight. I think I did decreases less often than she said to, just because I was like, it's already starting so small. And then the other thing was that the drop shoulder wasn't really dropping as much as I wanted it to. In the pattern, it says that the larger sizes have less positive ease, which is not really what I was going for. So I took what I learned from the Sonia sweater and I made this. It's still the Sonia sweater design, but obviously I changed some things. So the first thing I changed was that my original Sonia was a 3X. That was the size that was recommended based on my bust circumference and the positive ease recommended. And this is knit in a 5X, so 2 sizes bigger. I had this idea in August or September of last year, and I was so excited about it that I went out and I bought these colors. Now these are acrylic yarn from Hobby Lobby. The brand is I Love This Yarn. And I decided to buy it when I saw it because I felt like the colors were really important in selling this 90s look. Specifically this teal and this golden color, which I saw these in the store, so it was easy to see that these were like the convincing colors that I wanted, which is harder when you're buying yarn online. Sometimes you're not really sure what you're actually going to get. This is a little bit of a different yarn, so I decided to go with a 5.5mm needle instead of the 5. And I knit up a swatch just in stockinette with this new yarn and the new needle size. And I measured one of my drop shoulder shirts to see how far it should be from shoulder to shoulder. And then I did the math to figure out how many stitches it should be. And it was around the same size as the 5X shirt, so I decided to follow those instructions. And then the other thing I did, I mentioned on my other Sonia sweater that the arms were too small. So instead of doing 19 centimeters for the armhole, I did 24. It ended up being around 26 after you do the increases for the armhole shaping, but it's a much more drapier fit. So when I planned this out, I didn't have this teal color, but I bought it because I was like, it should go in here somewhere, right? I was thinking about maybe doing the bottom half in the teal, but my original plan was the top half purple and the bottom half navy. But then I got through a skein of purple and I was like, oh, I should do this teal in the middle here. So I did a kind of thin row of the teal and then I continued on with the navy, but I didn't really like how it looked proportion wise. I think it was about 10 rows and it just wasn't balancing very well. So I ended up doing sweater surgery. I had too much purple and I detached the purple from the teal and then I frogged it back to just about under the armpits. And then I picked up the purple stitches and knit some more teal. So it was purple and teal and then separated and teal and blue. And then I Kitchener stitched the top half and the bottom half together. It was over 300 stitches and it took me like 5 hours, I think. And you can kind of see the line where I've sewn it together, but I don't really care that much. It was worth it. This is the look I was going for. However, I thought about stopping the purple and doing the teal and I decided against it. So I wish I had actually gone with my gut in the first place. But I love this sweater so much I wear it out even though I haven't woven in any of the ends. I normally just tuck that into my pocket. Don't tell anyone. I actually filmed an entire vlog of this process, but it's so much footage. It's kind of crazy, and every time I think about editing it, it makes me want to cry a little bit. And this is the next thing I finished. It's called the Viperidae sweater, and it's actually my first color work project. This yarn is also, I love this yarn from Hobby Lobby, and the colorful one is I love this yarn in Gradient Brights. And I bought some of it because I was just obsessed with how the color changes. I hadn't really figured out how to work it into a project, but as soon as I saw this pattern, I knew it needed rainbow snakes. Now, I did not pay attention to anything going on in this pattern when I bought it. Number one, it called for sport weight yarn, and I used a worsted yarn, so my sweater is much heavier than it should be. And the other thing is I actually made the largest size in this pattern, which is not great because I'm pretty solidly mid-size. So it's not that inclusive, but I also think since it's a circular yoke, it might be easy to modify. I think I made the sleeves a little bit short, but I think they'll stretch out once I wash it and everything relaxes. This is what the snakes look like up close. I think it's pretty cool. I love this sweater in theory, but I finished it when it was already too warm to wear, so I won't know until it gets cold again how it actually wears. The next sweater I finished is the Novice sweater by PetiteKnit. I actually planned to do this in a different yarn, but it didn't work out. But I did have this yarn. It's Colorama Halo in blue raspberry, and this also calls for 6mm, strangely. This is such a lightweight yarn. I don't know why it calls for 6mm. This also went a little bit awry just because I thought I was going to get through more of the color changing, but I really had to do a lot of color management for this thing. So obviously I started on the blue side and then I knit until it got to the dark pink, but then I stopped because I realized I was going to have so much more pink and then I was going to have to connect another ball of yarn and do like light pink at the bottom. So I have a little band of dark pink here in the middle, and then I switched to another ball of yarn and I started going the other direction. I think if I had known that was going to happen, I would have planned a little bit differently. I would have started like in the middle of the blue, and then I would have had like a better balance. And then kind of same thing on the sleeve. I started with light pink and then stopped for the raglan, and I thought I was going to continue on to the darker pink, but I wanted the bottom to match with the blue. I think it turned out well. Like in an ideal world, it might be a little bit different, but with what I knew about color management and the amount of planning I was willing to do, I think it turned out okay. I actually started this project in mid-January, but I only picked it up when I was listening to audiobooks. And then it turned into only picked it up when I was listening to sequels of audiobooks. So I've been calling this a sequel sweater. I made kind of a fun post on Instagram of the progress I made with each audiobook. I'm not great at long-term projects, so I'm really happy with how that turned out too. I still have a couple whips to talk about, but this is my last finished object. This is the sweater number 9 Light by My Favorite Things Knitwear. The only thing I modified on this is that I continued the raglan stripe down the body, and I had to do a little bit of modification to get the stripe to line up with the bottom ribbing. You can't really see it because I haven't blocked it yet. Now this is a great sweater in theory, but I used Drops Karisma for it, and it is very uncomfortable to wear. I would call it rustic, and I think it feels like hay. And that's not great for a sweater that I plan to wear like as my clothing and not outerwear. This was supposed to be more blouse-ish than sweater. And yet I feel that the yarn that I used is really only meant to be on top of other clothing. I know a lot of people don't like to make the same pattern twice, but this is one I'll probably make again with a different yarn. And if I do, I think I'll make the yoke a little less deep. It's just so unnecessarily long. Anyway, I love this sweater, I love the construction, I love the color, and I absolutely hate the yarn. Okay, so now to talk about the whips. The first thing I want to talk about is the Staffin sweater by the Cranberry. As you can see, I have a lot of the body and only one sleeve done. I decided to put this one into hibernation. It's just really not bringing me joy. I think part of it is because it's just so tight. I picked the size based on the recommended ease, and I know that the 2x2 ribbing is going to stretch out eventually. I just don't like how it fits right now, so I don't want to keep working on it. I'm also not really convinced it's going to stretch all that much. I think probably logically I know that it will, but just looking at it, I'm like, you know. I think the other thing is I've done this collar twice and it's still hard to get over my head. So I feel a little claustrophobic when I'm wearing it. Like I said, I'm putting this one in hibernation. I'll probably revisit it once it starts to get colder again. I have other sweaters I want to do, and I'm considering doing warm weather knits. So it's really not the top of my priority list right now. This is my next work in progress. It is the Lakes Pullover by Ozetta. It's the same teal yarn from the 90s sweater. I really love that color, so I bought some more of it. I basically stopped working on this sweater because the sleeves were going to be annoying to pick up, and I didn't want to do that. That's it. While I haven't worked on this one in probably a month, maybe more, it's not technically in hibernation because I keep it around. All the projects I have at the top of my queue are either textured or cabled. So this is my just in case stockinette project. That was a cat coming in the room. I also think now that I know a little bit more about yarn that this project called for worsted, and this is actually more of an Aran weight yarn. So it's a little bit oversized. And did I gauge swatch? Absolutely not. Why would I do such a thing? Now this is my last whip. This is the project I am actively working on. It is the Waffle Loops roll neck sweater by Other Loops. I once again did not check the sizing before I bought the pattern, and I am making the largest size. At some point that's going to bite me in the ass, but until then I just refuse to learn that lesson apparently. The Drops Karisma was my first attempt to buy nicer yarn, and that really didn't work out for me. This is my second attempt. This is Barocco Vintage in Dried Plum. I really, really like this yarn. This is just such a delight to work with, and every time I work with this and then pick up my Drops Karisma sweater, I'm like, wow, the Drops Karisma is really not great. Like, I thought it was just because I was buying nicer yarn. I was like, maybe this is just what wool feels like. I will definitely be buying the Barocco Vintage again. So that's it for my Q1 knits. I have 2 hoods, 5 sweaters, and 3 sweaters in progress. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye!